Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the special closed council meeting to order and recess it until after the open and closed general purpose committees and the open finance committee meeting. So with that, I'll call the general purpose committee meeting to order. On the agenda, I would like to add a number 4. And we'll hand out the provincial release so everyone has it, which is eco-waste removal from the agricultural land reserve. So may I have a motion on the agenda with that change?
No more.
Is that seconded? Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, so that brings us to the minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved minutes.
Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Brings us to the Steveston Highway Multi-Use Pathway Project update. Let's see, we have Lloyd B., Milton Chen, who have joined us. Gentlemen, what would you like to add?
Your Worship, what I'd like
Just
to add is
hang on a second. Yeah, let's get your mics.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to add that I guess I'd like to give just a quick overview that the Steveston MUP has been part of regional and municipal plans for the major bike network for a long time, well over 10 years. Council approved the first phase in 2019 and the second phase in 2020 and the third phase in 2023. For the first couple of phases, we've achieved a lot of grant funding, totaling about 48% of the total cost of the project at this point in time.
To date, the design work has been completed. About $350,000 has been spent on the project to date. If council chooses to progress with the project, as stated in the report, additional funding is required. If council chooses not to proceed with the project, none of that funding would be recoverable from the grant partners.
So if we reduce this project, what happens to that grant funding?
To your worship, it depends on what happens. The grant funding is based on a set scope of project, so we need to go talk to the project funding partners to determine whether or not they would support a reduced scope. There is a risk that all of the funding would be withdrawn by the external partners if the scope of the project is changed.
All right. Well, councillors, you can ask questions at this point. There is a delegation who wants to speak to it, John Roston, but we'll go through questions first. So first to Councillor Liu.
Thank you through the chair. So we have heard from a few people about, air quality and various other things. If we were to reduce the scope, would it make it narrower, or would it just only be more of a bike lane to nowhere, so stop sooner, or what would be a different scope?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, it would be the length that would be the difference. So it would be less lineal meters of path that would be constructed.
Okay, so right now we're talking about going from number 2 road to where right now? Shell Road. Okay, and if we were to stop it, then say it would only go to 4 road. Is that what we're talking about? Okay, so that would be the ultimate in bike paths to nowhere, because right now we have the 2 road bike path that comes
Just
up,
questions,
ends at
please.
Steveston, and so then if we were to reduce the scope, it wouldn't quite get us where we're trying to go. So most people, the vision is to take people east-west, get them all the way to Shell Road, where they can then get into Ironwood and get into that area where they can work, shop, and do business. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, but if we were to shorten it, then it would stop short of that. It would end up at, say, 4 road, so then you can go to the car wash.
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, shortening it certainly would decrease its utility, and that's why we've scoped it the way that we would like it to extend all the way from Shell Road, all the way eventually out to Steveston. At the end of the day, of course, if we did shorten it, we'd have an opportunity to potentially bring forward another project in the future to maybe make that other connection that maybe if we made a choice not to pay for it today, maybe we could do it tomorrow.
Councilor McNulty.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's my understanding in the whole nature of the project, we're going to go from Railway to Mortfield Drive, and from Mortfield Drive to Railway eventually, right?
Through your worship, that's correct. Eventually, it goes all the way from Shell Road all the way to
Shell Road,
Railway.
not Mortfield Drive.
Well, Mortfield's in the middle of the phases, right? Like phase 1 was from Shell Road to Mortfield, and then Mortfield to.
Okay, well, check the wording in the book on the Mortfield Drive. I might as well get right into it. You're proposing we narrow each lane by a foot. My question is, do you have to shrink the lanes, make them narrower, or to do this project, or could you do it without changing the lanes?
Your worship, through your worship to Councillor McNulty, I'm going to just elaborate a little bit on the lane widths, and then Milton can answer the question. With the lane widths, only the curb lane gets narrowed. The center lanes stay roughly about the same. They stay about the same 3.1 meters on average that they are today. The curb lanes are the ones that are quite a bit wider than they need to be, and they would be narrowed to 3.25 meters. So it's really, at the end of the day, just taking 1 meter width off of each of the curb lanes. The center lanes stay roughly the same.
Okay, following that, you're going to build a curb to separate it from the road. And is that curb going to be our standard city curb that we see on the road, say in Hamilton elsewhere, which is what, 10 inches wide, 6 inches high? or
Through your
whatever?
worship to Councillor McNulty, yes, it'll be a standard curb.
Okay, so it'll be the standard curb. How are we going to handle the areas where we have a lot of infrastructure? You mentioned Shell. Coming down to Moorfield Drive, we've got a temple on there, we've got sidewalks. Gilbert, we have fields. Number 3 Road, we have fields, there's no problem there. When we get to 4 Road, we've got a temple, we've got sidewalks. We get to West Wind, we have sidewalks all the way to Railway, so I'm trying to take the total picture. How much, if we're gonna go 10 feet wide, are we not gonna be cutting up a lot of infrastructure that's already been paid for and put in by DCCs and or the taxpayer?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, on phases 1 and 2 from Shell Road to number 2 Road, there isn't a lot of built infrastructure. There is some by the temple in a couple of locations. Most of it is open fields. There's not a lot of existing curb, gutter, sidewalk that will be removed for this project.
Well, if it goes from Railway or Shell Road to Railway, I've driven it about 10 times now and walked it. There's quite a bit. All of West Wind, for example, on the south side, right from the Montessori, so I'm kind of concerned of how much we're going to start cutting away that's already there, and what is left for you and I to walk on. Well, he cycles. I'm trying to visual the whole project, because I think we only get one kick at this. We got to do it right if we're going to do it, and we want it to be done what we want it to do. So I'm trying to understand that, cutting up the infrastructure that's already there. As I see it, anyhow. Maybe I'm wrong.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, the section from Railway to 2 Road, that right now is in preliminary design. That was only approved as part of the 2023 capital program. So right now we are taking a look at how that section would actually look.
Okay, just a sidelight. Is there any thought of any further traffic reduction, given that will be a major cycling route along there in terms of speed? In terms of Williams, for example, people tend to slow down because there's bike lines on both sides, right? Okay, and it's not double linked. So is there any automatic or any cameras thinking of going in there to slow it down?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, no, we do not have any automated enforcement on speed in that area. We've been requesting that from ICBC and the province for a number of years now. We think that that would be a great tool that could be implemented if we could convince them to do that on Steveston Highway.
Have we informally asked for it through resolution of council? I appreciate your comment and I support you on it. Have we formally asked for that from them?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, yes, we have, and we've sent letters from Mayor Brody as well as myself.
I suggest we
others.
follow up again because it's politics versus technology here. And I think it'd be worthwhile. The technology is there and it's cheaper than having a policeman on there if we can do that. I know it's another issue, your worship, but I think when we look at this, we've got to look at its totality. So I have some further questions later and I'll pass on. Thank you.
We'll go to Councillor Galanders, and just a reminder, we're just asking questions now. There'll be time for the debate later.
Yep, thank you. Just a couple of questions. I'm just curious, on GP10, the map of the regional cycling network, how did Steveston Highway get into this regional plan in the first place? What was the process for doing that?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, I'm not positive. That predates me by a fair ways, but I can certainly request that of TransLink and find out exactly how that happened and what the process was.
Sure. So it might have come from them looking at it then, as opposed to us applying for, like letting them know that it was our plan. It might have come from the regional strategy.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, quite often, I can't say what happened then at that point in time, but what I can say is that at this point in time, whenever a regional strategy is being formed, they often consult with the city, but they don't always align with what the city is asking for, if that helps answer your question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Well, I wonder what would happen then if you didn't want it there. Like, if you really knew you didn't want it there, would you let them know we think this would be a better route and then apply for it that way?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, I imagine that would be the case. Like, at the end of the day, you can see that the city is the one that is tasked with actually building with help from TransLink. So ultimately, if we didn't want it, we would just probably not build it.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to make sure I'm clear about the timeline. So we're talking about phase 1 and 2 right now. So this is what was approved in 2019, it's already paid for, budgeted for, and in 2020. And then in the last 3 and 4 years, we've just been securing the grants and making sure, like seeing how much of that we could get covered and doing tenders out to contractors. And so now, 3-4 years later, we have the price and it's 2.4 million higher than it was 3-4 years ago. Is that right? So it has nothing to do with Steveston, it has nothing to do with the new railway to 2 road. This is dealing with stuff from 3-4 years ago.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, absolutely. This is just about phase 1 and 2, which were approved in the 2019 and 2020 capital budgets.
Okay. And so then the additional cost, if we were to go forward, would come out of the unallocated amount in the roads DCC budget. And what is the balance of that fund right now?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, I'm not aware of what the total value of that fund is at this point in time. However, we did check with finance to see if there was available funding that could be used for this purpose.
Let's see if
That's what it
Mr.
says
Chong, hang on. Let's see if Mr. Chong can help us
Yeah.
out with that.
It
Jerry,
said it right in the
can you
report.
give us that figure? Turn on your mic.
I'm just looking for it right now, Your Worship.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Let me know when you've got it. Carry on, Councillor.
I think those are my only 2 questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, through the chair. Thanks for the report. Lots of good information in that. 2 quick questions. Back in the day when this was all going through analysis and everything, was Williams and Steveston ever compared in any kind of cost-benefit analysis between the 2 of them? Or was it always just the choice to go with Steveston Highway?
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs, I think it was a little bit different than that. I think that back in the day, like if you can imagine, our standards for cycling networks have gone up dramatically over the last even 5 years. But certainly 20 years ago, bike routes were really just a painted line on the side of the road. And when Williams Road was implemented, that's what it is. And so I don't know that they were ever directly compared. And I do know that certainly when you look at our cycling network plan that we're hoping to develop over the, through the past years and over the coming years, most major roadways have a bicycle route on them. Not to be implemented necessarily in the next 2 years, but certainly over the next 35 or 50 or something like that to create a network that is cohesive and helps people get from where they want to go to get them to where they want to go from where they are. So I don't think it was looked at as a comparison as either or. I think it was looked at as this is the next step in creating a commuting bike network for the city.
Okay, and just one other question. When you talk about the narrowing of lanes issue that was mentioned, and you're talking about the curb lane or the number 2 lane, are they going to end up being equal widths? Because you were saying the number 1 lane would be about the same. So are they going to end up being equal widths, or will the curb lane be a little bit wider still? Or
through your worship, Councillor Hobbs, the curb lane will be a little bit wider. I think it's about 6 inches wider than the center lanes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll go back to Mr. Chong. Do you have that number for the roads DCCs?
Yes, Your Worship, through Your Worship to Councillor Galanders, the uncommitted balance in the roads DCC is approximately 34 million at the end of December 31, 2023.
Okay, Councillor Day. Just there you go.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. Thank you for the report, super interesting. So I have lots of questions. Right now, we're looking at phase 1 and phase 2, and then adding to that would be the railway to 2 road, which is phase 3, and that comes in at about 5.7 million at today's date. So the 4th section would be from Shell Road all the way to Highway 99. Have you got any cost comparisons for that?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, we haven't actually determined what that looks like yet. We're certainly working with the province right now with MOTI to figure out how their bike lane comes out of the tunnel and how it joins on to the city road network. Right now, it looks like it may join up at Rice Mill Road, the way they're doing it, which would certainly change the way we might look at how our bike route connects to that. So I think that we're not there yet. Like, we have to see what the province comes up with and how we can marry up to it. And then, of course, before we do anything, we would bring it forward to council for your review and consideration.
So phase 1, 2, and 3, we're at about $19.2 million, correct?
Is that what it totals?
Got,
I believe it's around 17 million.
17, okay. You added in what would be extra. Gotcha, okay, 17 million at this point. So, I mean, we could hit 20 million by the time we're finished quite easily, once we do phase 4. Is it possible?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that is possible.
Yeah, okay. So, in terms of riders, how many, do we have hard data on the percentage of riders that are recreational and the percentage that are commuters?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, it's difficult for us to get those kind of numbers at this point in time, but one of the things that I can say through our bike share program and through the e-scooter program, those are great programs for us to get data from the vendors. And through that, we've gotten a lot of ridership data, but no, we do not have a segregation between commuters and recreational riders at this point in time.
Is it logical to assume that there is far more recreational riders than daily commuter riders?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I do not think that's true. I think that there are a lot of commuter riders.
Okay. I have ridden my bike on Steveston Highway, And, okay, I'm not that big, but I almost got blown over.
Is
by-
this a question?
Yes, it is a question, Mayor Brody. So given that the trucks and motorhomes and everything goes so fast, how can we protect the riders in the bike lanes?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, this is the reason for the separated boulevard. It creates some distance between the traffic and the riders.
Okay, and, okay. So I'm a pretty big fan of Williams Road. We've had this conversation before. And I have, especially that day I went on Season Highway, I diverted over to Williams Road. It's possible that we could have a bike lane on Williams Road. It's just not on the table tonight. Isn't that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, we do have a bike lane on Williams Road. It is just not a Class A, AAA facility.
Okay, so do we have the painted lines, how far on Williams? Like from where to where?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I believe they're all the way from Shell Road all the way through to Railway.
Okay, so since it's already there, could we not enhance Williams to make it a higher level of bike lane?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, yes, at Council's direction, we could do that.
Number 5.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping you'd say. Now, if we were to cancel this project tonight, and then write a letter to TransLink and say, look, we've talked about it, and we prefer the Williams Road route as opposed to the Season Highway route, could you then go into negotiations with TransLink to try to get some funding for that as well?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, everything's possible. I don't know what TransLink answer would be, but we could certainly ask them.
Okay, now, I never even thought about the pollution angle of this, but I've gotten quite a few letters this week about people concerned about riding their bikes along and, diesel and other trucks and gasoline and, vapors. Has there been any studies done that indicate what that level of contamination could be?
Through worship to Councillor Day, we didn't do any studies directly, but what I can say about that is certainly when we look at the Environment Canada website, our air quality is very good. We have there's a Metro Vancouver monitoring station that's not far from Steveston Highway. It also regularly indicates that our air quality is very good. So I can say that we didn't necessarily entertain that because the air quality has generally been considered very, very good. But again, I'm not an expert on that, and at Council's direction, we could have a look at that. One other thing I'd like to say about that is, as we're concerned about the cyclists breathing the pollutants and things like that, there's also a lot of study that says the people in their cars actually get more of it than the cyclists and the pedestrians. And beyond that, if it was a much larger concern, the residents themselves would be a larger concern. So pollution is a concern. Our air quality is pretty good, but it's another reason why switching away from fossil fuels to cars that don't pollute is fairly important to us as a community and a society.
Okay, and one last question. Given that we already have the painted lines on Williams Road, is it not true that Williams Road, at 5 Road, we have a road allowance, city-owned road allowance that goes straight from Williams all the way, actually beyond Highway 99, just to the north of the Lingyan Mountain Temple?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I'm having trouble picturing the right-of-way that you're talking about. We
Williams.
certainly have road dedications all over the place.
Yeah, I recall when the Lingyan Temple was being planned that there was a city road allowance between what was then Mylora Golf Course and the Lingyan Mountain Temple. So if we were wanting to extend the bike lane, the painted bike lane, or whatever, if we decide to do in Williams, we could fairly easily, I would think, go through that road allowance that goes all the way to number 5 Road.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I don't have that detailed information at my fingertips today, but we could certainly have a look at that if that was Council's direction.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right, because I remember Harold Steves said that could be a farm road that could go when we wanted to do the 5 lots on number 5 Road instead of the golf course. So I'm 100% sure it's there. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Councillor Heat.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. Given what we have in Williams Road right now, to move it to what you classify as Class A, what would the upgrades, what is required for those upgrades?
Through your worship, Councillor Heed, I should probably let Milton answer that.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Heed, right now, it's a painted line that separates. So we would have to take a look at what the physical separation would be. Right now, there is a center lane. So one of the options could be to reduce that center, or completely eliminate that center lane. But we really need to get an in-depth analysis to determine what would actually meet the requirements of that AAA standard.
So that center lane is that middle laneway that turns to nowhere.
There is a shared left turn lane.
Yeah, actually, quite a bit of it. Okay, my other question is regarding TransLink funding and the total funding. If we go through 3 phases of this and it costs us $20 million, once we start the initial process, we've got to go right through all 3 phases most likely. So my question to you is, in realizing that TransLink money is taxpayers' money too, in addition to City of Richmond standalone taxpayer dollars, what is the total cost that you estimate would be from City Richmond taxpayer dollars?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, my estimate would be it'd be 50% of the total project value.
So we'd be estimated $10 million, and $10 million from other sources, most likely, most of it TransLink?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, generally TransLink has funded these to the tune of 50%.
Okay. Does TransLink have a veto power in all of this, based on the fact that they're contributing 50% funding? For example, just for example purposes, if we were to move away from Steveston and go with Williams Road, the cost reduction, I'm assuming, is going to be reduced, but would TransLink still have a veto power in that and saying we're not going to provide funds available to upgrade Williams because we want Steveston?
Through your worship, Councillor Heed, a couple things to offer there. One is that at the end of the day, this is at TransLink's discretion. They're the ones that are providing a grant, and they're providing that grant under a number of different specifications. In this case, it's specific to the route and it's specific to the style of the bike lane, a AAA facility. It would be up to their discretion if they would transfer that funding to another route. But the other piece I want to touch on a little bit is I don't necessarily believe it would be any cheaper to actually build a AAA facility on Williams Road as opposed to Steveston Highway. There's really no reason why it would be any less expensive.
That's fair, and I thank you for that. And I just want to go make a comment on this. If standalone Richmond taxpayers are paying 50% of this and other taxpayers are paying the other 50% of this, I think, commenting again, Mayor, that we should have more of a say on where this is going to be located. Thank you.
Through your worship, if I may, just to comment that really the 50% is coming from the development community through our DCC program, so not directly from Richmond taxpayers.
But it is, of course, it is Richmond's money. But just to answer that comment, we can designate a bike route wherever we want, right?
That is correct, your worship.
Right. It's just that we have applied to TransLink for funding on a certain basis, and if we change that basis, which is that it's on Steveston Highway, they can reassess their position.
That is correct.
So, okay. All right. So, Councillor Au, you have a question?
Yes.
You have questions?
Yes. Okay. Now, my understanding is that when you talk about option 2 on page GP 15, so you mentioned that if we are going to keep the, within the boundary of the existing budget, so we have to scale back the project. And you mentioned that it will be reduced by 20 to 30%. What does that mean? Are you saying that we'll shorten the route?
Through Councillor Au, yes, that would shorten the route.
Okay, when you say 20 or 30%, so what are you referring to? So would it be from Shell Road to number 3 or Shell Road to where? So
Through your worship, Councillor Au, we haven't entertained or determined that at this point in time. However, if council gives us that direction, we will bring options forward to council for their consideration.
okay. Now, is it fair to say that if we shorten the length of the route, then it will not carry the original function as planned? So it's functionally, it's not what we wanted in the beginning.
Through worship to Councillor Au, that is correct. Functionally, it wouldn't be the same. It would be as if we shortened Highway 99 for car traffic, that you wouldn't be able to go to as many destinations.
Okay, so it's also fair to say that if in the future we want to catch up, we still have to catch up with that shortened portion by further money in the future.
Through your worship to Councillor Au, if we wanted to get the original functionality, yes, we would have to bring that forward and council would consider it in the future.
Okay, so finally, would you say that if we take for option 2, it will be a half-baked or half-cooked route, which is not serving good purpose?
Through your worship to Councillor Au, that staff's thought and position on that, and that's why we recommended option 1.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, last question, Councillor Galanders, you have another question?
To staff. Do you have a number, by any chance, of how many, because there were some stats in here about residents being within 800 meters of a main bike lane and stuff. Do you have a number on how many residents there are that would have to go that extra 2 kilometers to, say, Williams, instead of being able to use the Steveston? I'm talking about, so Steveston, London Landing, West Wind, and then even all like the new townhouses and stuff that are in from all the rezonings along Steveston Highway. Like, I'm just imagining people in all those townhouses being able to take an e-bike or whatever, or a scooter to Ironwood. Do you have a number on how many of those residents would have to travel that extra 2 kilometers if they wanted to use a bike path?
Through your worship, Councillor Glanders, no, I do not have at the tip of my fingers the number of people that live within 250 meters of this particular bike route.
Yeah. There is a reason why you chose Steveston Highway, though, for this location, because if there was a certain number of residents that would be having to go so much further.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, absolutely. We didn't look at the absolute numbers, but when we have a look at this corridor, we know that there's a lot of townhouse development and housing development, as well as high-rise development along this bike route. And the big thing is it's connecting two city centers, really. Like, it's connecting Steveston basically with Ironwood and ultimately to the bridge. And, you know, there's just a lot there. There's a lot of people that live in that corridor. There's a lot of businesses in that corridor where people go to work. And there's lots of places for people to do things that they need to do on a daily basis, like go shopping. And, you know, it also connects some of the religious buildings along the way. Like, there's lots of reasons to use Steveston Highway. I mean, right now, we see there's a lot of traffic on Steveston Highway. There's a lot of cars, so there's definitely a strong desire line there. So it would be reasonable to suspect that if we could get a bunch of those people out of their cars, they would do their business, you know, via the bike network.
Mm-hmm. And one more question. Isn't there a specific also benefits to Steveston Highway versus something like Williams for this type of Class A bike lane, in that Williams has all those driveways, whereas Steveston Highway, I mean, Councilor McNulty was talking about infrastructure near Westwind, but for the most part, I mean, I've looked at it, and all those fields are such a benefit. There's so many long paths where there's just a curb and there are no driveways and there's fields. Isn't that a preferred thing in expanding the Williams one, and then everybody that lives along Williams, every single driveway has this big new curb and expanded bike lane in front of their house?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, there are lots of great reasons to put it on Steveston Highway. One is that Steveston Highway, as many people have pointed out, is a pretty hazardous place to ride your bike right now. So even if you really wanted to ride your bike along that desirable route, you know, you probably wouldn't do it, right? So that's one of the great reasons to put a Class A route there at this point in time. You're correct that Williams Road has a lot of conflict points for cyclists, there's a lot of driveways and things like that, so it's a little bit less desirable than Steveston Highway. But, you know, one of the primary things is that Steveston Highway is a desirable corridor, and it would be good to create a place where cyclists could go and be safe using this desirable corridor.
Thank you.
Councillor Day, I want to get to the, I'm going to put you off, I'm going to get to the delegation now. So we're going to go to John Roston, who is online.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Very interesting discussion. My point really has to do with the health effects of highways. So that's why you all have my submission, and you have the report from the Environmental Protection Agency. And they're talking about people who are within 300 feet of a 4-lane highway. So Steveston Highway is a 4-lane highway, and Williams, of course, is not. So it's got half the traffic on it, traveling at probably half the speed. So anybody who's on Steveston Highway, as I have been at rush hour, knows not only are there a large number of vehicles traveling at high speed, but many of them are these large diesel trucks, dump trucks, and so on. And there's a very large number of them on Steveston Highway, and it's far many more than you will find on Williams. So the EPA report talks about the health effects within 300 feet of the 4-lane highway. And I think we should keep in mind that the plan for the new bike path on Steveston Highway has it 3 feet, not 300 feet, 3 feet from the highway. And the health effects that the EPA says we have to be aware of, and I'm going to quote them, health effects that have been associated with proximity to such roads include asthma onset and aggravation, cardiovascular disease, reduced lung function, impaired lung development in children, preterm and low birth weight infants, childhood leukemia, and premature death. So we're not talking about minor health effects here. And these are the result of scientific studies. They're not some sort of speculation. So my point is that there should be studies done along Steveston Highway and along Williams during rush hour at the same relative points, so we can compare the air pollution at rush hour on Steveston Highway and compare it to Williams and see what the story is. The monitoring station that was mentioned in the by staff just now, showing good air quality, is not located anywhere near Steveston Highway. It's just north of Williams. So we do not know what the air pollution is on Williams, particularly at rush hour. There's also been a study done at UBC on the effects of diesel fumes from these large trucks, and they've shown that there are measurable effects on the brain. So we can bring the experts in, they're right here in the Lower Mainland, and they can tell you what happens to your brain when you breathe a lot of diesel fumes. So these are serious things, and I think far more than the money that we're talking about is people's health. So that's the main point I'm trying to make, and I think it would be totally irresponsible of council to proceed with this project without a serious study on air pollution. As for a couple of the other points that have been mentioned about lane narrowing, the report mentions that lanes could be as narrow as 2.75 meters. I should point out that these big dump trucks are 2.6 meters. So they would be 6 inches. The vehicle is only 6 inches narrower than the lane width if they were that narrow. And my final point has to do with the point Councillor Galanders raised about driveways. In fact, many of the houses, there are hundreds of houses on Williams, but large numbers of them use back lanes and actually don't have a driveway. And I counted them from number 3 road to Shell. There are hundreds of houses and there are exactly 35 driveways. So if you extend that to railway, it might be up to 100, I suppose. But we're not talking hundreds and hundreds of driveways in that length.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. So we can have more comments and discussions, but I'm going to suggest that we refer this matter back to staff to compare the implications of Stevenson Highway to Williams, the idea of putting a Class A bike or Class A bike lanes on Williams, and also to look at the funding implications. I think that what I've heard, I realize I've just been hearing questions, but I think that the comments have been that there is a significant concern as to whether we do have the best route. And if we do, or the analysis will tell us more about that, specifically if we do that with Williams. That's what I'm suggesting at this point.
Can I make that motion?
Okay, so.
So moved.
Okay, so that's moved. So it's moved and seconded. Counselor Day, on the referral motion. I'm sorry. There you go.
Okay, I would have preferred option 3, which is to cancel the project. I think it would send a stronger message to TransLink and get them to the table to talk about the Williams Road. But if this is the will of council, then I can live with the referral. I wanted to also mention, as Mr. Rawson mentioned about the driveways, I also went down Williams and started counting. Every new development, the driveways is reduced. For example, where there's often 4 houses, there's 1 driveway. Where there's townhouses, there's 1 driveway. Where there's 2 houses, more often than not, they enter from the lane. In fact, any house or lot on Williams that has a lane no longer has access to Williams once that redevelopment happens. And, you know, we see every week, we have probably 1 or 2 on Williams. So it's not going to be long before Williams is built out. So I think that Williams is hands down the best option. And as Councillor Heed pointed out, this middle lane that turns to nowhere is going to eventually become redundant because there are no driveways that will require that lane. So if we take the absolute width of Williams and say, okay, let's put in a Class A bike lane, will we still have room for everything else that we need? And I think the answer is going to be yes. And so if we direct staff, as Mayor Brody has pointed out, to look at how we can make Williams work, I believe there's more answers or more solutions than problems on Williams Road. And I can't support Steveston Highway at all because, like I said, I've been there. And just putting up signs during the election, I just about got knocked over when a bus went by. It's not safe. And could you imagine a father with his 3 children on little bikes behind him and one of them gets blown over? It's not unimaginable. I just think we need to build the bike lanes for sure, but we need to build them in a place that's safe for everybody. And there's a lot of people who live on Williams. I think a lot of people would use a Williams Road pathway. And we have to get this right. So if we can't get option 3, which is canceling it, then I will support the referral.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll support the referral because I'm hoping that we'll end up with people realizing that we should proceed with this. I think it takes courage and vision to build proper infrastructure. When I've talked to people, it's very motherhood and apple pie. They can't believe that we wouldn't build this. Many years ago, people built separated sewers here in Richmond. That cost a lot of extra money, but it was building infrastructure here in Richmond. We have those separated sewers. To this day, we are benefiting from it. We don't have the overflows, so we don't end up throwing sewage out into the Salish Sea when there's big rain events. We have lower rates with our liquid waste. It's proven to be a better system. This is one of those things. This is that thing that you invest in now. We've decided we're having a climate emergency, so if you build it, they will come. If you build a proper bike lane, people will use it. There's a huge east-west. There was many times this summer where we were biking to try to get to Ironwood, but it was extra long and circuitous. Little legs, it's hard to get there. But if we had the straight shot, it would have taken 30% off. Do you think that it's easy to add an extra 30% to your bike ride? Well, that's fine if you're a bit older and fitter, but when you're 8 years old, that's a lot of extra riding for little legs. The speed limit is the same on Steveston Highway and Williams. So the fact that people are going too fast on Steveston Highway is enforcement and road design. So when we cut down the roads, people will go slower. We've seen it over and over again that that's the way to do it. it was years ago, my kid was 4 years old, we were driving down Hornby Street, and he said, Mom, look at that nice bike lane. Can we bring our bikes here? Can we ride our bikes here? It's like, well, we have to take the SkyTrain then, or the Canada Line to go and get it. But yes, when a 4-year-old can realize that a properly separated bike lane is the way to go, the rest of us should be able to see that too. And I think that's what we need to do. It's just like separating the sewers. Extra money was spent to do that years ago. This is one of those things. It's only going to cost more when you keep moving forward. Build it now, people will start riding. You want to get people out of their cars? This is how you do it. You want to link up to the new Massey Crossing, whatever that iteration is going to be. That's how you're going to get people there. We've already seen the uptake from the bike bus, so people being able to take their bikes from Bridgeport, they put it on the bike bus and they get through the tunnel and they come out the other side and they're able to get to Victoria and other places. I think it's opening things up. People are getting e-bikes. There's so much opportunity for moving people around outside of cars and not just electrifying another vehicle. It's electrifying a bike. It's getting people out of a vehicle into something much smaller, much more efficient, and we can move people around differently in Richmond, and that's what we need to do. That's what we're trying to do. We're building our dikes up for the next 50 years. Why aren't we building our bike lanes up?
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really am glad that we're doing a referral and not just voting on one of the options here. I think that the option to reduce it is just totally a non-starter, and I wouldn't want to cancel it. And I also, but I also feel slightly uncomfortable not having all the information and not just seeing if there was possibly a better option before, trudging forward and then down the road, we sure made a big mess of that. I mean, I don't think that would happen. I really also think that Steveston Highway is a really bold and necessary choice. I can't imagine anybody in those townhouses along Steveston Highway riding over through the side streets to Williams just to get to Ironwood safely. I think we already we need bike lanes on every road. So what I had actually written down, a referral before the mayor said his referral. I think that yours covers what I want, but I would like it to be like, not just look at it, well, we've looked at it and we think it might cost this and TransLink might fund that. I think it should be like create a full proposal for Williams of what a Class A bike lane that's comparable to what we're proposing on Steveston Highway would look like in all the phases and actually apply for the funding for it and have a response from TransLink so that we can actually compare apples to apples if that's possible.
Yep,
Yeah.
apples to apples. Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I was happy to move the referral. I'm a pro-cyclist and for transportation and a pro-two-wheeler or whatever. It's interesting, the comments that are being made, and I support many of them. I think on this one, Your Worship, I will support the referral as I did move it, but I have some very serious questions that I think we're trying to evade, and I don't think we should be building a bike lane just because we got some money from somebody. I think we need, we do. Oh, by the way, I'd like it all to come down Williams Road. There are no problems with conflict between cars and cyclists and the bike lanes. I happen to live at the end of the Williams Road where the bike lane ends, all the way from number 5 Road. It's beautiful, both sides, north and south. But I just want to assure the public that there aren't any problems there. It's great to walk in, people jog in it, etc. So I'll be supporting that. But I really have some concerns, Your Worship, about the cost that we're talking about here on it. And I think we need to have an idea. Williams Road is already in there, and it's a proven opportunity to look at it. So it's already there. You could put pylons on the road. You don't even need them because people cycle on Williams Road and people drive responsibly. Okay, so I think it's important, and I think that's one of the issues. When we look at Steveston Highway, we've got to look at an overall safety plan. I think it was Councillor Day that said you put a sign up, you get blown over. If you want to believe you get blown over, every bus, every dump truck, and every car that goes by, there is a wind vent, and it comes and swings onto you. So I think that, excuse me, if you're riding I think that is a consider. We need a safety plan, and I'd like to see automated enforcement along there, because there is this the wind draft from vehicles. Because people, you remember, it is a highway. Your worship, it's not Williams Road, Francis Road, Blundell Road. It's Steveston Highway. We can do 110 down there, okay, because that's what they do. So I think it's something we're on. The other comments I'd like to make, I'm very concerned about cutting up existing infrastructure. That stuff was all paid for. It's actually quite good, etc. That's a loss, not a benefit, because the taxes paid for that, DCC's paid for that. Staff said, well, we're going to have to come back 3 feet. We may have to cut some of the sidewalk away, et cetera, et cetera. Are we going to put new sidewalks in there now to put it in? Because we're going to have a curb, and then we're going to have to cut something away so I can have my 3 feet. Go down there, gentlemen, and have a look. I've been there. I measured, okay? You're going to have to do it. Are you going to have a flat? If you wish, on the right-hand side, you have a foot about this side, and it's lower than the asphalt, and it's lower than the sidewalk. So I think we need to get that kind of report back before we venture down the road. And we need a comparison of Williams Upgrade versus Steveston Highway on it. And I think safety is the most paramount thing we can talk about here. I don't want to see somebody go down Steveston Highway and not be safe, Your Worship, about it. I have a lot more faith right now in Williams Road because I live in it. I've driven there and rode my bike on there, etc. I think one of the things that we've done, as I asked questions earlier about the various segments, Your Worship, I've gone there. Some are going to be very easy to do on Steveston, and staff will come back on the field area and the grass and what have you. But others where you, in the total project, are going to have to cut away and remove current infrastructure, because I think it's significant infrastructure that's there. So I'll refer the thing, but I think we need to make sure we get it, and I'd like to see safety plans. And I have to agree with Mr. Roston in terms of the health plan as well. When you're driving those big trucks down Steveston Highway, people don't go down Williams Road with the trucks. We have the what is that, commuter bus going down Williams Road, and I think it makes a difference. We're really talking apples and oranges here, and because they are different, but I think we can try to equate them so that we can look at each of those things. So I appreciate what staff have brought forward already. I think it's going to be a period of time before you're able to come back with the absolute comparison. But I think in order for us to proceed, we would have to have an overwhelming, in my opinion, response for Steveston Highway versus Williams. I think Williams is sitting there just waiting to be upgraded with some very, very nice topping on it. And as I say, I thoroughly believe, and I have to commend staff, for example, on railway, Your Worship.
You're out of time here.
Yep, I'll be great. Last month is pylons are there. Good on you. Okay, it doesn't cost the same as putting concrete down, so maybe that's a consideration to do. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Wolf, on the merits of referral.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 short questions for staff first, if I may. The first one is, do you have hearing what's coming down here today, do you have an estimate on how long it would be till you would come back on this referral, if there was a referral?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Wolf, I would imagine it would be a couple of months to get a fulsome referral. One thing I would like to add is that the TransLink funding that is currently in place, the current deadline is the end of this year. So staff will do their best to get a response back to council in due course so that if council chooses to proceed with Steveston Highway, it can be done within the grant funding timelines.
Thank you. My second question, through Your Worship to staff, is in regard to the presentation from Mr. Roston. If there was a referral today and you were to come back within a few months, would that include air quality monitoring comparison between the two roads?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, that's something we'll take a look at depending on how the referral is worded.
Okay, thanks. So a couple comments then. I'm not in support of the referral. I am in support of option one, the staff's recommendation, proceed with the project. Not everyone's in favor of that at this table nor across the city. But I think that's one of those decisions that is bold and needs to be made. And it's not for us today or the road users or the cyclists of today, it's for the future. I think there were lots of great points brought out through the discussion today and through the many letters that we received. And I think canceling it goes against the whole point of creating multi-use pathways. And I haven't been in support of all multi-use pathways in the last 4+ years for different reasons I won't get into today. I've cycled almost all arterial roads in Richmond full lengths. Steveston Highway is not one of them, and you would never see me doing it as it currently is. This issue, I think, when we're debating Williams versus Steveston Highway, I don't think it's an either or, I think it's both, and it's just a matter of time. The talk about removing the middle lane in Williams, sure, there's a lot of sections where it's not used because there's no driveway to turn into, but at the end of the block, it is the turning lane in many ways. And so, yeah, I don't see that being, it's not worth the delay in getting to the point that we're going to need a thoroughfare route to go to connect Steveston to the new tunnel project, to have people go a block north and curl back around south. I don't think is reasonable. Maybe today's cyclist users, be they recreational or commuter, I know I've heard from some who said they prefer it. They like to be away from the highway. But we've also heard from staff, and we've probably seen, we're kind of like the white Tesla capital of the world, and there's the big push to EVs, and trucks aren't there yet, but there is likely that momentum coming in the way of electric semis by the end of the decade. I'm sure I would not want to be a cyclist right along the Highway 99 corridor when you see how much standstill traffic of port trucks are sitting in that lineup every morning. And I'm sure most people would be, if they had to choose between two options, they would choose Steveston Highway as opposed to Highway 99. So I think anyway we can get people south of where the traffic is, and you can't beat being along the Finn Road south of Steveston farm properties for cycling. It's just like when you cycle past the Garden City lands, it's that breath of fresh air. It doesn't matter what car traffic or what the cars are doing at standstill or going fast, but that microclimate that you get when you're beside a green space is definitely the way to go. So I'm not supporting this referral. Thanks.
Councillor Al.
Yes, Your Worship, I can live with this referral, but I have questions on, now, what do we expect to get back from staff? No, my concern is that if we are going back to make a comparison between Williams and Stevenson, are we going back to the drawing board, which should be the case a few years ago? So we've done all this work, and then we have confirmed that this is the right place to have the multi-purpose path. So are we going back to the drawing board to the beginning to make a comparison? So what are we expecting from staff? What will you bring back to us?
Your Worship, Councillor Au, what I would expect is that we would bring forward a comparison so that Council could make an ultimate decision. I don't think it's exactly going back to the drawing board. I think we know a fair amount about Steveston Highway at this point in time. So, that's a pretty known quantity. The thing that we would be figuring out is, what it would cost to put a Class A facility on Williams and maybe the ancillary roads that you'd need to connect it back to where Steveston was if we were going to do an apples to apples comparison, right? Because at the end of the day, the route's longer. so it could be more expensive. So I don't think it's back to the drawing board at all, but I do think that it is just generating some more material so that council can find some comfort in one or the other answer.
Good, yeah, because I'm concerned about, we are actually practically canceling the project, going back to the drawing board, and then make a new decision. And I think this is only makes it longer to make a decision, and then I think probably it's not going to save us any money. So, yeah, I can live with the referral, but I think we have to move forward.
Thank you. From my point of view, if it was just option 1, 2, and 3 today, I would support it. But there have been a lot of questions. There's obviously a lot of concern and a lot of thought that, at least on a gut reaction level, that Williams would suffice and it would do as much as spending a great deal of money on Steveston Highway with, let's face it, every solution is going to have some drawbacks. So I would like to hear more about Williams along with the others, and from that we can start to make that decision. And as soon as staff can get back to us on it, frankly, the better. So with that on the referral, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. Thank you, gents. That brings us to our flag policy. Jason Keita, what do you want to tell us about this?
I have nothing to add to the report, Your Worship. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so if it's option 2, would it be just the two items that would be added? Like you'd clean up the existing language, probably take out Olympic, reference to Olympic, which was current 10 years ago, but not so much now, and then add the pride flag and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Is that what you have in mind for option 2?
To Your Worship, those would be ones that we would consider. Those are ones that have been brought forward in council, and so those are ones we'd be considered. If there's any others, we would be happy to consider those.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, just on that point that staff made, could you comment on how a community member could make a request for a new flag? What would that process look like in your mind? Under option 2.
Under option 2, so through Your Worship to Councillor Wolf. Option 1 and option 2 don't have a formal request from the public. It would be the current status of how requests or how flags are flown. It's either through maybe a delegation that comes and council deliberates and a motion is set, or perhaps a councillor brings forward a motion to fly a flag, and that is debated at council. So option 1 and option 2 don't have a specific request process for the public to be able to fly an organizational banner or flag.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, it would be maybe a public delegation at the end of a council meeting as a non-agenda item. They'd make the presentation. Council would perhaps then follow that with direction to staff.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Wolf, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I'd move option 2. I can.
Yeah, I mean, this is a policy, so council can vary it, as Councillor Wolf has indicated. You know, someone comes forward with a great idea, we can vary the policy and accommodate it, right?
Through Your Worship, yes, that's correct.
If we did option 2. Okay, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, just a question. Thank you for the report. I can see option 2 and I can basically support it. Was there any discussion or any thought of having additional flag stanchions, such as at the Cultural Center, which is really the hub of what we want to do? I mean, we built the Cultural Center where we could maybe put a country's flag or whatever on, I'll use myself and we'll be facetious, but on St. Patrick's Day, we can put the Irish flag up on it. But that kind of thing, especially in the plaza area.
Through Your Worship to Councillor McNulty, staff didn't go into a lot of detail on if more flagpoles should be or could be added. Certainly we could add flagpoles to the city's current infrastructure. The one that we had identified, and that's in the report, is the one that's facing number 3 road, which is currently the Ukrainian flags being flown. And that is the one that's used for Remembrance Day as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I was looking more, because if you look at the calendar, any day of the week, there is a national celebration, 365 days a year, of some group from some country. And it might be an opportunity, because we have a couple, as you know, we have the Filipino flag, but they bring their own over here and raise their own flag. For those of us who showed up for the Pakistani flag, etc. And I was just thinking, out of respect for the community, whether there were any other areas in that. But anyhow, thank you very much. A good report.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. How much lead time would staff need in order to allow, whether it's a pride flag or anything new that comes along? It could be something that we haven't even heard of today. How much staff time do you need, like with council or without council, in order to do that?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, it would need to come to council, so depending on the option that you're choosing, but if it's option 1 or option 2, then that would be that would need to be formally approved at council. Once that happens, we can go out and seek and purchase the organizational banner flag that's being requested and have that done in a timely manner.
So, yeah, I mean, when you think about it, if, as Councillor McNulty just pointed out, the Filipino flag, they actually bring the flag and we hang it up, right? Couldn't we suggest to any particular group that they supply the flag just to kind of speed the process along?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, yes, we can do that as well. That's another option.
And isn't it true that there are communities, I think Delta may be one of them, where city council is involved in the flag decision? It's actually made by staff. Isn't that true?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, in our research for the city of Delta, they do have a community program, campaign program, awareness program that allows the public to be able to request and that request to fly a flag, and that goes through their clerk's department. And the manager of clerks, my understanding is the manager of clerks handles all of the program and the authorization.
Yeah, that would actually be my first choice, but I realize we can't go from crawling to running in one step. So I can live with option 2, and then down the road, I'd like to see option 3, a community program. So, thank you.
Councillor Rao.
Yeah, I just want to ask one thing for clarification. Now, when the Filipinos and the Pakistan, they use our plaza to raise their flag, we do not raise the flag for them, right? It's their event.
Through your worship to Councillor Rao, that's correct.
Yes,
They bring
okay.
their own
I just want to make
flagpoles.
sure that, we have the common understanding. It's not our event, it's not we raising the flag for them.
Right.
Correct.
I'm suggesting that the motion, if it, in conjunction with what has been stated, is that council, there's a further aspect to it. As long as that Ukrainian flag is flying, I haven't heard anybody suggesting that we would take it down. And so probably it's going to be up there for a good long period of time. So my suggestion is that we add another flagpole on number 3 road. And I think there's plenty of room. It can be done quite readily. So my suggestion in terms of a resolution would be is that we endorse option 2 in relation to the pride flag and the flag to commemorate the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And secondly, that we give direction to staff to add a further flagpole to be erect so long as the Ukrainian flag is flying.
So moved.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that one? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, that takes us on to the strategic plan. Oh, it's you again.
Nothing to add to the report, your worship?
I move the recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Let me be the first to say, I think you did a wonderful job of distilling a great deal of thought and discussion. So I think it's fully justified. What might this be? Well, okay, Councillor Day, we better hear from you what you've got in mind.
Thank you very much. I think that the strategic plan is fantastic as well, but I think the biggest issue facing Richmond is housing. And I was surprised when I didn't see that as a key strategic plan, a standalone, not just part of what's already in here, but an actual strategic plan item number. Because as I just handed out, this is from the Richmond Housing Needs Report. The short one? Sorry, Cher, I messed up. Anyhow, the Housing Needs Report is very, very, very specific, and it states that almost half of people couldn't afford an apartment of any size, and 95% could not afford a typical house in Richmond. And we used to have 26% renter households, we now have 36%. And this is a huge issue, and even according to our own staff report, it's now considered a crisis situation. And all I'm saying is that I would have liked to have seen that as part of this strategic plan, because I think it's that important. So I don't know if we can do it on the fly, Mayor Brody, or if we could just add a 7 housing for all, something like that, or if we need to refer it back to have that added, because it's a little bit in every bullet, but it's not highlighted.
Mr. Keita, tell us about housing.
To your worship, so under focus area, strategic and sustainable community growth, we do have a priority that's develop and implement innovative and proactive solutions that encourage a range of housing options and enhance affordability. So under that priority, that would be working with all levels of government, that would be working with our community partners into establishing housing in all types of housing in Richmond.
This should be a top priority. Sorry, guys, I think that we need to add it, and that's what I'd like to move, that we refer this back.
I'll come back to you. Councillor Liu.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if including this housing needs report and having an additional line item, would this help councillors to understand the need for housing then, and then to vote to approve the projects that come to council?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, the council strategic plan priorities, focus areas and priorities are council's priorities. And so if that's a focus area that you feel, that council feels strongly to have as a focus area with specific priorities underneath, then certainly staff can add that.
Thank you.
But as you say, haven't you encapsulated it when you say encourage a range of housing options and enhance affordability? That's the strategy, and then the tactics to get there are going to be through planning committee and all the other options that we've had.
To your worship, that's correct. All of the actions that would fall under a housing strategy would fall under that particular priority.
I mean, my fear always is that if we get very specific about it, then you're going, Councilor McNulty just said you're not going to get anything. It's going to be so specific that if you don't fall within the 4 corners of that, you're not going to get anything. So anyway, we've got Councilor Au.
Yes, well, I think this is a very good report. However, I'm disappointed that we did not put enough emphasis on economic development. Now, I found that on GP 34, the top, second bullet in the top, that we talk about working collaboratively to attract and retain business to support a diversified economic base. Well, I think economic development is more than that. But again, I can live with this. However, I have one suggestion. Can we say work proactively and collaboratively? So we are talking about 2 things, right? As a city, we work proactively to attract and retain business, but we also work with the region in the bigger picture that we collaboratively, we are part of the Metro Vancouver, and then we trying to build up the economic base. So I just want to suggest that we add one word, work proactively and collaboratively. Yeah. If that's fine.
Okay, Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering what, just on what Councillor Al was just saying, sorry, because I didn't, were you talking about the housing bullet as well?
GP 34.
At the very top of 34, the second bullet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we brought this up at a few of us mentioned this at the night that we did our strategic planning, and just that I also felt like enhanced affordability was too weak language, and a few people did say that, so I was also surprised to see it in there. I think that encourage a range of housing options is good, and I do understand the point of not getting too specific, because if we had these housing bullets that we're going to do this, 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 and that, before we've even finished our OCP, I don't know if we're there yet and able to be that specific. But at the same time, I feel like we have housing mixed in a bullet that has, you know, transportation network and attracting businesses. So it's like, I absolutely hear what Councillor Day is saying, and I agree. Like, we have an entire bullet for a safe and prepared community, but we don't have an entire bullet for affordable for housing and housing options and affordability. Even just housing strategy, as you say, housing strategy as its own title. We could have maybe combined responsible financial management with stakeholder and civic engagement. I mean, I also agree with, I don't think we can do this on the fly. I know that other municipalities went away together as a council for 3 days and brainstormed what they wanted their strategic plan to be. And we didn't do anything like that. So it makes it difficult. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. Well, first, thanks for the report. I know it's a lot of work to do strat planning and to get everything boiled down to some more global strategic goals. I just want to make a point and maybe ask a question, is that I think, you know, good points about housing and everything, but I think it's important to remember that the strategic overarching goals themselves are always broad in general, because you do want to essentially try to avoid getting to too many specifics on those. That's my understanding from having done a little bit of it in the past. And I just want to ask you a question and verify, when you talk about the specifics of certain tactics or objectives or goals within a strategy, you get into what's typically a work plan or you know, a staff document, because staff will develop those very specific work plans with goals, objectives, and metrics that they'll be measured against. And so that's where the rubber really meets the road. In my experience in strat planning, anyway, that's how it's worked, and I understand that that is similar to how it would work here. Those documents would be more robust, more detailed, more specific. Is that generally
Through your
right?
worship to Councillor Hobbs, that is correct. The objective for the focus areas and the priorities, you know, typically we would want them to be broad so that strategies and actions and reports that staff bring to council would fall under one of those and help you achieve your council goal, your council priorities throughout the term.
Right, and staff will be measured against those work plans, or whatever the term is that the city uses, and being evaluated as to how they're doing in their particular area as well.
Yeah, through your worship, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'll be supporting the recommendations on the floor, but and we should adopt them because they are our strategic plan, and as being referred to, that they are broad in scope. And this coming off the fly, and there's a lot of good, I'm just quickly looking at some good information. I think when we want to address a specific of housing, and I think we all know the same thing, and we're all working together with the development community to get more housing and get it affordable, if there is such a thing. We need an action plan, and I wonder if this document, Your Worship, cannot be referred to the Planning Committee to discuss on how we're going to get there. I mean, it's great to throw it out and say, let's put it in, but maybe we should be synthesizing. Again, we just got this, and I'm trying to piece it where it is. How do we get there? There are strategies to get there. We have staff coming forward with good reports, and obviously I hope that when the rental stuff that comes forward in the next weeks or two, we have unanimity around council supporting us going forward with those projects and getting them, those built as fast as possible. I think there's some valuable information in here, Your Worship, but I don't think we're going to be able to, by putting it in strategy with a dot, okay, whoopee, it's in there. Let's analyze this. Somebody's done some work and brought us some information, and I think we can, just having a quick look at it, we need to synthesize this, and it's not something I would put in the strategic plan because it's too specific, but it's something we can discuss at Planning Committee for an action plan to move forward and maybe implement some of the suggestions that are in here. It's just my thoughts.
Okay.
I don't want to lose it.
Now, Councillor Day, you either have a motion or a question.
Yeah, I have a motion to refer this back to include housing options for all. And then we can hone down on what we want to do. Because every single one of the councillors sitting at this table, on their platform, on their flyers, said affordable housing. Every single one of us. And this is a top priority. It's not something we can throw in and say, we're collaborative
All right,
to attract.
so you're moving referral back.
Yes,
Is
but
it seconded?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to call the question on the referral back. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is defeated with Councillors Au,
Can I just-
McNulty, Liu, Hobbs, Heed, and the mayor opposed.
Can I just ask for a friendly, though, on page 33? It says, develop.
Well, if you want an amendment to what's there, let's
One
get
word.
it, we're going to get it on the floor.
Just like Councillor Au, I have one word I'd like to change.
I said, we're going to make the motion, get it on the floor, and you can propose an amendment. Would someone like to move it? Oh, we've got, okay, it's on the floor. Okay, so what amendment would you like to make?
Yes, on page GP 33, the second paragraph from the bottom says, develop and implement innovative and proactive solutions that encourage a range of housing options and enhance affordability. I think that enhance should be prioritized.
Is that seconded? Second. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed?
That's great.
What other, Councillor Au?
Yeah, just if they want to propose the amendment to,
Just a minute.
Did that pass?
It's carried.
Prioritize?
Prioritize.
Prioritize.
Just hang on a sec. So Councillor Au,
yes,
you're on.
just like I mentioned earlier, I want to add the word, actually two words, right? Work proactively and collaboratively.
So that's at the top, the second bullet at
Yes.
the top of page 34, it would read, work collaboratively and proactively.
Yes.
Is that seconded? Okay, discussion on that? All those in favor? Just a minute, there's some quizzical looks here. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? So that's carried. Anything else to amend?
I'd like to.
Councillor, just a minute. Yes?
Thank you. On GP 34, we had talked a lot about good governance as being its own thing. And now that word's not anywhere in here, but I think it really fits in with responsible financial management, because if you look at the second bullet under responsible financial management, it's seek improvements and efficiencies in all aspects of city business. So that doesn't even necessarily have to do with finances. So I'm just suggesting in the title, responsible financial management and governance. Or good governance and responsible financial management, or responsible financial management and good governance.
I'm hearing your point. I think what you're saying is in there. I mean, how much more is it than ensuring effective financial planning, seeking improvements and efficiencies in all aspects of the city business?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, is that the bullets.
What are you adding to that?
I'm just changing the title to match the bullets, because then when people see it, they see, oh, there's good governance in there. It's not just about financial management. It's about all types of efficiencies. So I'm just asking to add good governance to the title.
So you wanted to say responsible financial management and good governance.
And good governance.
Governance.
And governance,
And
responsible governance, responsible financial management, and governance.
Okay, so-
Governance.
and governance. Is that seconded?
Second.
Discussion on that. All those in favor? Sorry? Oh, Councillor Heath, sorry. Go ahead.
I would just like to point out that good governance is this entire plan. I don't think we have to separate this out. Good governance is all of these focus areas. Good governance is, proactive, strategic, sustainable, safe, prepared. That's all part of good governance. This is what our strat plan is. Those are the comments I wanted to make.
Okay? Hey, this isn't a conversation. I'm sorry, it's not a conversation. Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. Yeah, I remember having this discussion when we had that meeting, and I think one of the points that I tried to make at that time was it's a little bit redundant for me, as I think Councillor Heath has just kind of pointed out. And so while I don't think it's absolutely necessary, I'll support it because I'm not going to vote against good governance. But I think it is kind of embedded in the document throughout, but I'll support it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not good governance, it's just governance. Responsible financial management and governance. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councillor Liu and Councillor Heath opposed. Okay, any other changes? All right, we're back on the main motion with those few little tweaks, I would say. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
No adjournment.
No, we've got eco-waste. I handed out the provincial acknowledgement, the provincial announcement about the landfill that was removed from the agricultural land reserve. And what I'm seeking is a motion referring this to staff to tell us the options, analyze it, and get it back to us. Basically, what has happened here, for those of you who are not aware, a couple of years ago, Eco-Waste came to us and they said that they want their very large parcel, I guess it's 150 acres, they want to have a non-farm use so that they can make a 30-year investment in it to improve it. We agreed to the non-farm use. It went to the ALC. The ALC said because of a regulation that has been passed by this current government, you can't have a waste facility on farmland, so therefore you can't have a non-farm use of the property. So as a result of that, they came back, Eco-Waste came back to the city, I think it was last summer, and said, okay, there were two things. Basically, we want to take it out of the agricultural land reserve because the ALC had encouraged them to do this, and I suppose the province. And also there was some difference in the height of what they wanted to be able to, how high they wanted to make the facility. We said, no, we will not agree as a city to removing it from the agricultural land reserve. So lo and behold, last week, that's exactly what the government did. The government, by cabinet order, took the property out of the agricultural land reserve, and I am absolutely dumbfounded. So what I'm suggesting is that we refer the Richmond land, the Eco-Waste Richmond landfill matter be referred to staff regarding the removal from the agricultural land reserve, and to ask staff to analyze the situation and advise us regarding our options.
So moved.
So that's moved and seconded. I'll just add an editorial comment. I am absolutely dumbfounded that a government that prides itself on the preservation of agricultural land can do this. I don't understand it. And maybe they're going to be able to explain it to me. There are other aspects, which I won't get into right now, but I don't think there was a fulsome discussion with the city of Richmond, put it that way. So I've got Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship.
Just a minute, I've got to, okay, there you go.
Thank you, Worship. As Chair of Planning, this had come up numerous times, planning. And as you well know, probably every councillor in the last term was lobbied by Eco Waste to get it out of the agricultural land. And I'm going to support referral because we've not seen the plan. As the worship said, we have not consulted. And the other thing is I'm concerned about the future of what they are really going to do. Okay, I think for those that were on council last time, know that we did get some dog and pony stuff. Everybody, you know, can we have lunch with you? We want to talk to you about what we're going to do. So I agree with the direction you're going, Your Worship. I also think, though, we shouldn't let the province off at this stage. I think we should be questioning them. What analysis did they do to take this out of the agricultural land? What were the specifics? And I agree with you if what was pressing about it, on it, if they're pro-agriculture, pro-farming, they'd like to. And also, I'd like to know if the Agricultural Land Commission was lobbied on this one to make a recommendation to the province to do it. I really think that, you know, I'm not going to say what was in the previous reports because I don't have them in my hand, but I'd like to have it. So I really, I think we need to stand up. If we really thoroughly believe in what we purport, then we need to stand up. And I'm not afraid to say, if in our case, that the government is wrong. And please correct it, or put limitations on it. I know when Councillor Steves was here, we kept looking at it, and we knew that we could put fill on there and it could be farmed. Okay, there was a plan. Whether they want to do it or not is another issue. So, Your Worship, I think it goes further, and I think we should be questioning both groups, the Agricultural Land Commission and Chair, and the province, as well as staff coming back and doing good due diligence for us. So thank you. I hope part of that referral that we read a letter.
Well, I'm suggesting let's find out our options, get the analysis, and I'm sure what you say is going to be part of it.
Is there a timeline on the analysis? Could we get it back sooner than later, before things go too far down the road?
I think planning staff knows the urgency of this.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Day.
Well, I agree 100% with what Mayor Brody and Councillor McNulty have said. This has been a dog's breakfast since the beginning. You know, if Harold Steves was here, he would tell us that the entire area was farmland and was a dump before the ALC even came into effect. So this one should have been grandfathered. We know that you don't want to put dumps on ALR land anywhere in the province, of course, but it was already there. And this is so redundant and it's very short-sighted. And I'd like to take that analysis with staff and take the potential letter that we're going to write to the province just a little bit further. I'd like an FOI request to find out who spoke to the ALC, when and why, and what was agreed. Because I can guarantee you there's some funny business going on behind the scenes, and I'm very unhappy with this decision. In the meantime, in the analysis, I'm hoping that Mr. Erstick can inform us, can we put restrictions on the land so that we don't see something like a huge office tower or a huge warehouse, and we can limit it? If they're saying they have to take it out of the ALC to build a recycling center, then let's limit it to exactly that and nothing more. What can we do? What are our options?
All right. Councillor Galanders.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what everyone else is saying as well. And I also, remember when the last extension application came to the FSAC committee, there's a big video with all these promises of the beautiful farmland that's going to be created from this soil reclamation project that was going on, and that was going to be a benefit to Richmond in exchange for them getting to make millions of dollars on the operation they've got going there, which started on cheaper land in the first place, being ALR land. So my question is, now that it's being taken out of the ALR, who gets that land left, that hundreds of millions of dollars more that property is going to be. Does that not, that should come back to Richmond in some form, because we're not getting what we had agreed on out of them. Over many, many, many years, there was an understanding of what Richmond Farmland was going to get in the end. So there needs to be some compensation there. And I'm also confused about the process because, you know, with Bill 15, exclusion applications have to go through the local municipality, right, in order for it to go to the ALC. So if they can just go and do their own exclusions, are there any other properties in Richmond that are vulnerable? You know, what's next?
Well, they did come through us, and we said no. So then it was the cabinet order that just did it.
Yeah.
Councillor Hobbs.
Oh, thanks, and through the chair, I too agree with all the previous comments. And, you know, just one question or one thing to point out, if it's accurate, we were unanimous in our opposition to this. And in my mind, it seems like it's fairly unprecedented that the government would go against a unanimous decision by a council and then have very limited communication, if none. So it's just something that I think the public should be aware of, that it was unanimous before by council not to do this, and that it was essentially, in my mind, the rug was pulled out from under our feet. So I agree with trying to delve into it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll call the question then on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Someone move adjournment. We'll now, if you give me 1 second, we'll call the finance meeting to order. Finance Committee. May I have a motion on the minutes? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Then we have development cost charges. Okay, so just a minute. Is there anything you want to add?
There's nothing to add. Staff and DCC consultants are here to answer any questions from
All right.
council members.
So that's moved. Is it seconded? So it's moved and seconded. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for this information. So I'm seeing there's a few reasons why we're increasing this. So there's the CPI, there's the new diking, and then changes in land values over the years. If we didn't do it through DCCs, if we just did all these changes through regular taxation, how would that look instead?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, if this wasn't being done through DCC, it has to be done through taxation. Approximately every 1% tax increase will help us fund about $3 million in capital. So depending on what's the magnitude of the increases, it's going to be quite substantial if it has to be funded from taxpayers.
Okay, so do we have a number based on this? So obviously we had, whatever, $900 million in start or development. And so you must know how that was split out. So what would that look like then in DCCs, in a year of DCCs?
To the chair to Councillor Liu, all this depends on the timing of the projects, and all these projects still have to come to council for approval first in the capital plan. So we do not have an estimate of how this is going to pan out, because it all depends on the timing of the different projects that we're going to put in place for the next 25 years.
Okay, but we can say from, say, the last 3 years, we can say, okay, well, there was this many townhouses, this many whatever's built, and so this is what it is, and then this is what the increased difference would be if we apply this moving forward. If those are averages moving forward, this is what it would look like. So, for example, if I'm building a 1,400 square foot townhouse, the increase cost is going to be $13,482. So that's going to raise the DCCs on a single family, like townhouse, basically, to $45,360. So if that's the upfront cost to a family trying to get into the housing market, we're not increasing affordability versus if we trickle it out to them over the years after the fact in property taxes, it gives them more time to catch up. Like coming up with your down payment in the first place is a lot harder, and what we're doing is we're layering on an additional, for a small townhouse, for example, we're tacking on $13,000 onto that townhouse. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, just Following up on that.
Just a minute, just a minute, just a minute. Hang on.
Yeah.
There you, no, just.
Okay, just, thank you. Just following up on
Sorry,
that, it is
sorry.
going to,
Just a minute. Yeah, you don't have a mic. Okay.
do I have
it's
it
on.
now?
It's
Thank you
on.
very much. Just following up on that, though, it is going to affect housing affordability. My question, though, is going to be, if we do not increase them, then, and we don't get DCCs because they go for everything from parks to whatever, well, the regular taxpayer then is going to have to foot the bill, is it not?
Through the
And
chair to
taxes will
Councilor
have to go
Minotti.
up?
That is correct.
So this is one of the things that is the sordid part, if you wish, of development, that in order to pay for sewers, waters, and parks and everything, and sidewalks, we need to charge them, otherwise taxes would go up immensely, I would think, correct? Okay. The other question is the timing of this, and I guess, when will it go into effect? We usually use a grandfather for, and we call it for in-stream applications. When will it go into effect? The day we pass it at council or somewhere down the road?
Through the chair to Councilor Minotti, the bylaw will go to the province for adoption, for approval after it's been approved by council. So that will take another couple months before it will come back for adoption. So we're looking into maybe in the next 2 or 3 months that we can take the report back to council for consideration for adoption. And then after that, there's 1 year in-stream protection. So we're looking into another year before the new rates would kick in for those that are already in-stream.
Great. Obviously, in there, we have communicated with some of our partners. Are we going to send out something to our partners like UDI and the builders to let them know that we are going to be doing this, and it will be in effect once Victoria approves?
Yes, through the chair to Councilor Minotti, public consultation has already taken place last year in the winter, and we've already engaged with NAOP, UDI. We also have been talking directly with a lot of home builders, and so they are fully aware that this is in process, and we also have information bulletin that's posted on the city's website, so they should be fully aware of the progress.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking at the timeline, I'm just curious, summer 2021 to spring 2022, the review and update of key inputs, and the summer of 2022 staff report to council with draft DCC program and rates. That's on page 2 of the report. Was that public at the time, or was that closed?
To the chair to Councilor Galander, that was public at the time.
Okay. There was a referral mentioned in the report on page fin 11 that staff investigate the viability of applying DCCs to the dwellings being rebuilt. Was that strictly renovations, or is that considering tearing a house down and rebuilding it?
Through the chair to Councilor Galander, the referral at that time was to look into the tear down. So, yeah, once
And
you
we can't do that?
because the assumption is that the DCC have already been paid on that development, so any development being replacing a demolished building will not be subject to DCC, because legislation only allows us to charge DCC once.
So anybody that buys a little house and tears it down and wants to build a big mansion doesn't have to pay any DCCs?
That's
but
correct.
They contribute a different way, like through the affordable housing strategy or something, right?
Yes, there'll be other mechanism for us to recover other costs, and there could be other servicing agreement that we can set up with the developer, so then they can pay for other requirements.
Isn't there one already in place though? When you build a new single-family house, they don't already automatically contribute to the affordable housing fund? Oh no, they don't, do they? Okay. And then, so regarding the single-family houses, that would only apply to like brand new subdivided lots? Okay. So regarding possibility of eliminating DCCs for purpose-built rentals, it's mentioned on waivers and reductions, permissive, developments that can qualify for waivers or reductions per legislation, not-for-profit rental housing, for-profit affordable rental housing, development designed for reduced, okay, so that's just affordable housing. So purpose-built rental is not included in the DCC waivers and reductions. Could that be something that we could add in our draft DCC rates, that we would give a complete break on DCCs if we build purpose-built rental?
Through the chair to Councillor Galander, staff is currently undertaking a study to think about or to propose and look into the feasibility of what DCC waivers can be applied to, and that study is still underway.
Okay, that's great. And then last question, I think, is can you explain to me what the difference between a light industrial development would be versus a major industrial development?
Through the chair to Councillor Galander, a major industrial would be large processing plants such as concrete plants or processing factory. And there's actually quite limited number of sites that are currently categorized as major industrial, whereas light industrial will be those that are sort of warehouse with office buildings. So those are the light industrial definition.
So like the Shelter Island Marina permit that process that's in place for that to be redeveloped, the shipyards and stuff into warehouses, that's a light industrial?
I may have to defer that to our planning group staff.
Joe?
Your worship, yes, that would be light industrial.
Industrial, right. So yeah, I was just thinking there's probably very few sites that the major would apply to. So it's almost like you're specifically putting it on those, probably just like under, like very few. Okay, that's interesting. All right, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Heat.
Thank you, Mayor. And just so you know, I really appreciate this report. I thought this report was very well done, and it certainly gave me a lot of knowledge being a new councillor here. But I do have a couple of questions. I understand in order for us to amend the bylaw, it would have to go back to the inspector of municipalities and be approved at that particular time. Do you see that as a difficult process, or is it somewhat a minor process?
Through the chair to Councillor Heat, it's not a complicated process. It's a process that we always go through every time we have a major update. And we work really closely with our consultant who has a lot of information that they can share with us, so then to allow us to ensure that, we are able to meet all the ministry's requirements ahead of time in order to ensure that this is a straightforward and quick process.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Also, I'd like to talk a little bit about who decides on what that money is going to be spent on. I know we spend it on infrastructure, we spend it on diking and various things, sidewalks, sewer, whatever. And the example I'll give you is if we wanted to spend the DCC on something else. For example, just for example, please don't get alarmed.
No,
that if
we can't.
We can't. So it's set in stone by the government.
What is it? It's parks, roads, and dikes, basically.
That's correct. It's set by legislation.
Is it our bylaw, or is it the province's regulation?
Well, I think it's both. As I understand it, they have approved DCCs for certain reasons, and you have to apply if you wanted something else. So they stipulate that, but also then our bylaw is written in conjunction with that.
So the comment I'll make, and it is a political comment, is if they want us to rapidly approve certain projects that come through our municipality and our city, especially related to housing, whether it's affordable or whatever term you want to use for housing, if we were to require having more resources in order for us to move this through the process a lot sooner versus later, so Mr. Ursig has the workers and able to do it, would that be negated right at the outset?
Through the chair to Councillor Heat, just to repeat what the mayor has said, is all the DCC can only be collected for very specific cost, which namely is for roads, sewer, water, sanitary, park acquisition, and park development. And this is per the legislation, and our bylaw is structured so that it complies with legislation. And in terms of the the money that we can spend is all subject to council's approval when we submit our annual budget, capital budget every year. And all those costs, infrastructure costs that staff requested to be spending DCC on must follow the legislation guideline. Anything that doesn't follow DCC guideline will not be eligible to be paid by DCC.
Again, thank you very much. Unless we made a request for government in order for this to happen, I just don't want them talking out of both sides of their mouths if we don't have the resources to do it. But that's government. Thank you.
That's government. Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Also, thanks for the report. Lots of very detailed information. And you've touched on it in the report on page 33, but just to clarify, when you did your public consultation or your stakeholder consultation and with UDI and small builders and that kind of thing, I can see in the report that there's some general kind of maybe grudging agreement that this has to be done. But can you just characterize in a little bit more detail? Because I'm kind of surprised. A lot of the percentage increases are quite high, so that gets people's attention. Could you just elaborate a little bit on how the feedback went?
To the chair, to Councillor Hobbs, the consultation typically went pretty well. We were giving them very transparent and very open information. All the projects were released to them, so then they are fully aware of what scope of work is being proposed by the city. There's obviously some concern about the cost escalation, but then at the same time, a lot of the industry stakeholders also claim that they are understandable of the situation because the cost escalation also affected them as they do their projects and whatnot, and they understand that there's land escalation, land value escalation, supply chain issues. So they're fully aware of the cost inflationary pressure that everyone is facing, and they're fully aware that the city is not immune to such inflationary pressure. And then with regards to the dike component being added to it, I think it was loud and clear from our council strategic goals that this is an accelerated flood protection that the city has implemented to accelerate it. So then they are also understandable. This is just going to make the city more livable and more appealing for jobs and the economy and also the taxpayers.
Yeah, thanks for that. And just one last kind of question or a little bit of clarification. When you look at some of the bar graphs on 79 and 78 and other pages as well, I can see that like Richmond sometimes is moving up from the comfortable middle of the pack and moving up right to the top. And in some cases, we were at the top. And I think a lot of that has to do with drainage and diking and that kind of thing. That's a big chunk of it. But is that also because some of the cities that we're comparing ourselves to do have not made their adjustments for, so in some cases, we, in all likelihood, we will be back in more the middle of the pack?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, you're correct, because every city has a different timeline in how often and where they are in the DCC update process. Take an example of Surrey. Our understanding is that the rate that the 2022 rate were their minor update, and we have no visibility on when their major update will be. So everybody is sort of at a different part of the spectrum. Delta, for example, has a 2017 rates, meaning that they haven't updated in the last 5 years, and so our understanding is that they are also going through a major update right now. So we could see them sort of swing up the rank over time.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Through your worship, a couple points, questions to staff. First, I'll follow up where Councillor Hobbs was there on, it's in our package, kind of page 78 to 81 shows the bar graphs with the colors. And it's kind of that yellow section that I think is most of interest when it comes to drainage. And I think Richmond taking a leadership at taking it serious, that we have a diking requirements. I guess I'm surprised, not surprised, looking at Delta or the breakdown there of New Westminster showing the Queensborough area. Maybe a little concern there as well. But yeah, I'm pleased with that aspect of it. My next part I wanted to ask about was the mixed use. I only saw a little bullet on the bottom of page 68 where it mentions for industrial developments with a mix of commercial and industrial. Kind of a formula to apply to the different parts. What about a site that is light industry and major industry? Do we have any mixed of those two?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I'm not aware of such a combination, but maybe planning staff would be able to confirm that.
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, in terms of the the differentiation between major industrial versus light industrial, it's primarily based on the zoning of the site. Heavy industrial is considered under the industrial zoning. That's predominantly limited to Mitchell Island.
Okay, thanks. Then to follow up on that point, actually, I think maybe two other points. Over the weekend, there was a large fire on a site right beside Lafarge. I believe it's like a recycling facility or some sort. And then I know Mitchell Island has had some fires on some of those types of sites. And then we just had an item a few minutes ago about eco-waste going from a ALR zone to a non-ALR zone. Any comments of any major shifts that we see and what could be classified as major industry? Maybe there's more uptake for more to be in that bracket?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, in terms of the industrial zoning, that was reviewed as part of the industrial land intensification initiative that council approved last year. There is a follow-up and monitoring of that work. Currently, there is no intent to revise the uses permitted in the industrial zone. There is a number of activities in the light industrial zone, especially quasi-commercial uses, which we are under review and being paid close attention to.
Thanks. Just one final follow-up then. Do we know of any other municipalities that are in this study here that do consider recycling set stations, or, like I'm talking about the large scale ones, or landfills like Vancouver Landfill and Delta? Are those considered major industry?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, I would not know off the top of my head.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. My question is, I mean, these are obviously some pretty big increases, but we have to, cover the costs of what it costs to build roads and sewers and dikes and whatnot. Will this in turn give us the ability to reduce some of the DCC costs for like nonprofits or affordable housing complexes? Does it give us more flexibility?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the DCC waiver study is currently underway, but any DCC waived, if there is an ability to waive DCC, have to be paid by other forms of funding from the city. So it needs to be funded either from taxes or other reserves.
So it's logical to assume that if we've got more in the kitty, we'd be able to be more generous with the smaller nonprofit groups. Would you agree? No?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, any waived DCC would be paid by the city, so it still has to be funded from other sources.
And, I'm not concerned about this raising the prices of new condos or townhouses or whatever else, because the costs of units are largely controlled by the market value. And as we've seen in the last year, market value has gone down. And interest rates also significantly affect the value of new properties. So while it makes a difference, they can only charge as much as the market will bear. So I think this is going in the right direction and making sure we cover our costs. It's a responsible thing to do for the average taxpayer.
Okay, with that, we have the motion on the floor. Just hang on. Hang on. So we have the motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Then we have the annual procurement report. Okay, David, anything to add to your report?
Nothing further to add, Your Worship.
So it's moved. Is it seconded? Seconded. Discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. All right, we're now adjourned.